climate change,
deadly
a
earthquake,
suicide bomber,
terrorism,
nuclear device in the heart of the nation's capital.
Let's face it, we are going to strangle our own planet. Emissions of greenhouse gases into the atmosphere are constantly growing. Thanks to our insatiable appetites, the climate is getting warmer, and in just a few hundred years it will be impossible to live in some places because of the high temperatures. There are more and more machines, and the population of the globe is growing, along with the need for more and more food. We simply demand too much. No one wants to restrict or limit themselves, but it must be done. We will have to gradually move on to using clean energy if we want to leave behind some kind of a livable world. But what will this clean, carbonless world of the future be like? Today, it seems every family has a car with an internal combustion engine. Every day, hundreds of millions of people fight their way through traffic jams. In large cities, the number of free parking spaces are growing fewer and fewer. And a most surprising thing, cars are idle 95% of the time, just sitting, parked, doing nothing. And they aren't cheap. Why do we continue to manufacture a product that works only 5% of the time? How to solve this problem? First, the world is actively moving to electric vehicles. Most recently, Tesla Motors passed Ford Motor Company in total market capitalization. And Ford is the fourth largest automaker in the world. People are gradually beginning to really believe in electric cars. At the same time, Tesla is actively implementing their autopilot system, driving by means of artificial intelligence. No need to hold the steering wheel or look at the road. The next step is the sharing of cars. If cars are really idle most of the time, really doing nothing, why should we even buy them? After all, you could, for example, gather together a group of 20 people and use a single car when needed. I could call a self-driving electric car, ride it to work, and other artificially intelligent cars could carry others. This approach could make travel much cheaper and reduce the number of cars on the road. And by this, we also accomplish giving up gasoline and all of the excess waste and scrap used for all the superfluous cars used in the past, and all of the excess waste and scrap used for all the superfluous cars used in the past. But why should we limit ourselves only to transportation? Every self-respecting adult male probably has at home an electric drill, and it lies idle, almost completely unused, somewhere in the back of a toolbox or garage 99.9% of the time. Why not share this drill, rent it out, and earn some money from it? Even a simple, ordinary box of tools could pay for itself over time. In the near future, we will inevitably achieve an economy of sharing, of even the simplest of things, like small household appliances. It makes sense. The development of the Internet of Things, miniaturization of sensors, and the widespread use of big data will inevitably lead us to this new world. A huge contribution to the destruction of the climate of our planet is the burning of coal. Much electricity is produced this way. It's cheap, routine, and extremely harmful to the environment. What are the alternatives? Iceland is one example. This tiny northern country produces 85% of its energy from clean, non-carbon sources. True, it is a little lucky, as 65% of this energy comes from Iceland's readily available geothermal sources from deep within the bowels of the earth. At the same time, Iceland's hydroelectric power stations alone produce so much energy that it can even be sold on the international market. They produce hydrogen gas through electrolysis for export, business with pleasure. Yes, Iceland is an expensive country. But who said that everything should be cheap like in China? Cheap Chinese imports produce absurd carbon emissions both in their production and transportation. This is another habit that we also need to break. We still need to solve the difficult problem of storing energy efficiently so that it can be used at a later time. But if the world moves towards electric vehicles, which need to store electricity in their powerful batteries, this problem will also be solved. The main thing is that we are moving in the right direction. We must find new, almost inexhaustible sources of energy. One example, why not get energy directly from space? The sun could provide the population of the Earth with almost endless energy. The Japanese space agency, JAXA, plans to build a satellite system, the SBSP, Space-Based Solar Power, by the year 2030. These satellites will be placed at an altitude of 24,000 miles above the equator in Earth's orbit to collect sunlight and send it to ground power plants in the form of laser beams. 2 such satellites could provide enough energy for about 1 million homes. And so, we have reduced greenhouse gas emissions by 25%. When humanity adopts more clean energy, this will free us up to develop more actively in other areas of life. Today, few people think about how much methane is emitted into the atmosphere by herds of domestic animals, which are raised and fed and slaughtered to provide food for a growing population. Over the past 50 years, greenhouse gas emissions in agriculture, forestry, and fisheries have doubled. To halt this ominous trend, we need to grow and eat food differently, such as using vertical farms and eating so-called test tube meat. New food production techniques will reduce emissions by another 24%. Genetic manipulation will allow for using fewer pesticides and cutting down fewer trees. Animals will not get sick as often and will produce more meat per animal. Plants will require less fertilizer. Who said GMOs are bad? Don't believe these myths. Vertical farms, on which plants will bear fruits grown under ultraviolet lamps in closed, optimal conditions, should be 100 times more efficient than conventional farms. In the future, each of us will live in a high-tech house in which vegetables will be grown on separate levels, and it will all be completely autonomous. The movement of water in such houses will be cyclical, and waste will be disposed of automatically. The roofing of such houses will absorb rainwater, clean it, and use it to irrigate plants. Of course, much of this work will be handled by artificial intelligence. This, too, is another benefit of our clean future. People will engage in less dirty work. The most important thing that we need to understand, every one of us, is to not be greedy or take more than we need. Today, no one wants to limit themselves in any way. People desperately resist this, as if they are fighting for the last drop of something. It will be difficult, but we can do this, for this is the only way to save ourselves and our planet. Don't be indifferent. Share this video with your friends